Welcome everyone. It's Shari Carroll for SimonsSaysStamp.com, and I have a super fun project for your Thanksgiving or just even a fall decoration, and they are paper pumpkins. I have created some templates for you to use, and the way that they work is you're going to fold your cardstock, and I'm going to use my bold folder just to get a really good fold. Then you'll place your template with those edges right up to that fold. I like to trace mine out and then cut out. I don't like to try to adhere it and then cut it out. So I'm just going to use a pencil and trace around, and then I can cut out my pumpkin piece. The largest piece on the template is 6 by 3, so you'll be able to use your 6 by 6 papers, fold it in half to create some pumpkins. I'll be using the largest template, and I have cut out some Desert Storm cardstock, and I have the fold in the center. So now I have the whole piece of the pumpkin. I also have a flat edge in here so that you can put your flameless candle once it's all assembled, and it'll sit nice and sturdy. I'll be poking holes in my cutout pumpkins, and that will be 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. I've already poked holes in my first one, and I'm lining up the next one. And I'm using my sanding block because it has a foam piece in the middle, and I can just poke right through. So make sure that you get these well lined up before poking your holes, because you'll want to make sure they're lined up when you go to sew them together. For these pumpkins, I have cut 8 pieces of the Desert Storm cardstock, and I also have another pattern that I'll be working with. What's super fun about this is once you have that cut out, you also have this little centerpiece that you can create another little pumpkin. So make sure when you're cutting out, you're keeping everything clean, and then you'll have 2 pumpkins in one. I've also cut some pumpkins using the Tim Holtz paper stash, and that's the abandoned, and there's such bright colors. They're really, really pretty. When they're mixed together for this pumpkin, you get different patterns together, and I think it's super gorgeous. And I also have my little pieces as well. Once you have all your pieces cut out and your holes poked, I am using some quilting thread because it's really nice and thick, and I'm also using a little bit of Scotch tape just to place a long tail so that I can create a knot later when I'm ready. Once you have your thread started, you'll go in, on this case, I went into the top. So I'm going into the top on my second piece and down through the bottom. So you're going to go from top to top, bottom to bottom, and you'll need to make sure that you follow that pattern, and you'll want to pull that tight, but not too tight when you're done. Otherwise your thread will cut through your cardstock. So I'm going to continue sewing top to top, bottom to bottom, and creating a book. I find it handy to use some clips or clothespins to hold everything together. And now I'm going to pull my thread away from that tape, and I have 2 long tails, and I can create a knot just to secure this in place. Once I have the bottom sewn and secure, I can still kind of fan that out a little bit, and I'll do the same to the top. So I will come through one of the pieces of paper into the top and then run that back through the bottom, and you can see where that's starting to put this together. So the next one, I'll go into the bottom and then out through the top. And once I'm done, I can create another knot and hold this secure in place. When everything is sewn together, it's still a little bit flimsy, but I can fan out these pages and make them even. For my next one, I am using some walnut stain, and I want to make sure that I ink all those edges. When I cut through the paper, you can still see the white core, so I wanted to make sure that it was nice and finished. And also, before I completely put these together, I'm using some paper fashion from American Crafts, and I'm using the gold paint. And I'm watering that down a little bit, and I'm creating splatters on both my Desert Storm pumpkins and also my Tim Holtz paper pumpkins. Okay, I have figured out that I can use my round blending tools to kind of hold this together. I want it to be as even as I can before I glue. And I'll be gluing this with my hot glue by just adding some down the center of that pumpkin. It's going to basically go down the center of all of those folds. There's a little bit of room to hold the glue. I went out in the backyard and I clipped some branches that had fallen, and I've just clipped small pieces, and I wanted to keep a little stem off to the side. So I'll be adding a little bit more of my hot glue, and once I have enough on there, I can place the stem right in the center and hold that down until that cools off. And now to start adding some embellishments, I have die cut the outline leaf cluster from Simon Says Stamp, and I've used some Tim Holtz metallic papers in a turquoise color. And I'll be adding a little bit of the hot glue just to the front of that stem. I've cut the leaf cluster in half, so I'll have two pieces to put onto my pumpkin. I'll lift this up so you can see the size of it and how all those colors are just absolutely gorgeous when you turn that around. And I can place my flameless candle on the inside. For my Desert Storm piece, I am using some Prima, and these are falling leaves flowers, and they're actually all put together, so I really don't have to think about stacking them or anything. And they all have a wire piece, so I can rearrange and pull things out to get a little bit more depth. I think the colors are gorgeous, and it goes really well with that Desert Storm. And I'll lift this up so you can see how that's starting to look. Now, I have only done some real basic decorating with these. You can see that gold paint a little bit once it catches the light, but you could stamp your papers or emboss them with an embossing folder to get a lot more detail. So here's how they look when they're all set up. I've added my flowers to the small piece, and I've also sewn that one together, doing 2 holes at the bottom and 2 at the top. Here's how beautiful those flowers are from Prima Marketing. And I've also die cut the eucalyptus leaves from Simon Says Stamp out of some paper. Here is my Tim Holtz papers. I really, really love this one. The colors to me are just so fall, and I really love a nice blend between some of the neutrals and then some of the bright colors. And then that foil paper at the top is just absolutely stunning. I've also created a little twine bow to add to the top. Before I go, I want to remind you to head over to the Simon Says Stamp blog. I have the link in the description box below, and you can see better photos of all of these and also download a template for your own paper pumpkins. I hope you've enjoyed this project, and as always, thanks so much for watching.